Here's the thing about it, church. Life is full of valleys. I'm telling you, you say, well, preacher, everything's fine. Now, well, I hate to tell you, but it won't be for good. I mean, one man said, years ago, I heard a preacher preach, and he said, you're either coming out of a storm, or you're in the middle of a storm, or you're headed for a storm. See, we sang some wonderful songs this morning. That song, What Sin Are You Talking About? See, what the devil likes to do with all of us is bring our past up to us. See, the reason I was thinking about Brother Charlie, I was sitting at the house yesterday afternoon, and I think I was watching a football game or something, and Jennifer called me. And I knew Miss Laura's been sick. I knew she'd been battling. I talked to Miss Laura herself last week. I call and check on Brother Charlie about every week, every other week, him and Miss Laura. And when Jennifer called me and told me how bad she was doing, it really upset me. I mean, it really did. And the reason it did was a number of reasons why. Number one, you don't have many best friends in the world. Well, I have a lot of good friends. I have a lot of wonderful friends sitting in this church right now. I think through the years, we've developed wonderful friendships and relationships. But Charlie Pennington's been my friend 32 years. And during my darkest days, during my very darkest days, when a lot of folks bailed out and a lot of folks walked away, Charlie never did. Charlie drove, I remember, Charlie drove, he lived about, he's in Augusta. It's about a 4.5-hour drive to Jacksonville where I was living. And during the just roughest time of my life, period, I looked out one day, and here was this red Ford pickup truck. He still has one now, it's a little newer one. Charlie Pennington had driven down all the way to Jacksonville. I got out and I walked out front to meet him, and he gave me a big old hug. He said, I haven't got long, I got to go back. I just want to drive down there and give you a hug and tell you I love you. He didn't stay 30 minutes. He came in the house, and Brenda fixed him a glass of tea, and he and I sat on the front porch and talked about 30 minutes. He got up, hugged me again, and said, I got to go back. It's Saturday night, and I got to preach tomorrow. But I want to drive down there to give you a hug and tell you nobody else loves you. You don't have many friends like that. You don't. And Charlie's going through a lot of hard times himself right now. Charlie, for about 3 years now, when I went to Charlie went with me to San Diego 4 years ago. Miss Laura told me, she said, now preacher, she got me on a private conversation and said he forgets a lot. I said, well, I do too. She said, no, you don't understand how bad he forgets right now. And he also gets real nervous and has anxiety spasms. And he wouldn't go with nobody but you. And I think that week now I saw how Charlie was struggling. I mean, it was a blessing, and we had a great week together. But he would ask me the same thing sometimes. Honestly, 5 or 6 times in 30 minutes. What time did you say church started, Brother Ed? I'd say 7 o'clock, Charlie. I mean, in 10 minutes it'd be. But it's not because he's crazy or nothing. Because Charlie has some things in his brain and his mind, chemically and nerve and all related, that is putting him in the place he's in. The church he's pastored 32 years has been very understanding and very loving. Because Charlie is not even able to preach sometimes. He has to have other men preach for him. So I brought that up because of that song Miss Misty just sang. Even in the valley, God is good. And I'm telling you, we may have a shouting service, we may not. But it's good to shout, and the mountaintops are good, and hearing things like what sins are you talking about's good. It's really good to me that not one sin I've ever committed that God hasn't just forgiven, but He can't even remember them. He said He's cast them as far as the east is from the west. He's put them in the depths of the sea. And God said, God said, I'll remember them no more. But you'll go through valleys. You've already been through valleys. You've already been through depression. You've already been through loneliness. You've already been through discouragement. You've already been through confusion. But even in those times, God is good. And I love that song she sang. Now I want to turn to Philippians 3, and I'm going to preach a 14-minute sermon. That'll get me out of church in time to go eat. I got to go run the bus route. Brother Keith had so many. He had so many in his van, I got to take some of his home for him. Ain't that a good problem? Somebody say amen. It is. So I'm taking some. Nathan, who normally drives my van, he's out of town. He's not able to be here today. So I had to run my route this morning, and I'm going to run mine and take some of his home. But we are going to find a Whopper or something somewhere along the way. The Lord willing. My last day, the New Year starts tomorrow, and we'll be back eating tofu. We'll be back eating tofu and sesame seeds. Okay. But anyway. Philippians 3 is a wonderful passage, I think. And I think it's really, I'm preaching this message. I reckon you can say I'll probably preach it the next 2 Sundays. I'm kind of preaching this the week early. Because a lot of times we preach this passage on the first Sunday of the new year. But I can't get away from it all night. I have trouble sleeping. Wasn't because of this or that, just Brother Charlie. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be over there to give him a hug. And I'm going today, or 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, whenever I can. But look in Philippians chapter 3 and verse number 7. Paul says, but what things were gained to me, those I counted loss for Christ. Now, I don't know about you, but I struggle with these people that like to stand up in their testimony sometimes and brag about what they gave up for Jesus. Well, I don't know about you, but what I gave up was a place in hell. That's right. That's right. I don't know about you, what I gave up was no peace. Yep. What I gave up was a life of misery. I don't believe I gave up anything for Jesus compared to what Jesus gave up for me. Amen. I believe that I got in on the little end of something real big. And I believe I got on the best end of something really wonderful. Then he says in verse 8 here, yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ Jesus my Lord. Now you got to realize who's saying this. The Apostle Paul, who was a member of the Sanhedrin, who was a Pharisee, who was a Jew of Jews, who was a leader in the community, who was one that had been going around with authority, taking Christians and imprisoning them. He said, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, and I think you know what dung is, that I may win Christ. Otherwise, Paul says, what I've given up, what I had, what I thought meant so much, was nothing but dung compared to what Christ has given me and is giving me. And be found in Him, not having mine own righteousness. I was witnessing this week to a young man, 32 years old. I talked to him for about 8-10 minutes. He said he was unsaved. He said he wasn't sure he was saved. And then he said to me, I'm just probably not saved. And I started witnessing to him and giving him the Romans road and the Bible verses I could think of. And he finally said to me what I've heard about 1,000 times, Brother Mike Biddick. Probably 1,000 times I've been told this by people I witness to. When I preach, I'll be honest with you. How you live is wonderful. How church people live is good and better, but I just can't live it. And I said, James, I can't either. I said, James, you don't understand. No man can. No woman can. No teenager can. Jesus has to do the living. So he says here, and being found in him, not having mine own righteousness. The Bible says that our righteousnesses are as filthy rags in the sight of a holy God. So what does that mean, preacher? That means the best you can drum up, buddy, is like filthy rags in God's sight. Wow. So we need something a little better than that, don't we? But that which is through the faith of Christ, the righteousness which is of God by faith. Verse 10. Now if somebody said to you, as a man said to me the other day this week, I was talking to a man over at Eddie's store one day. He was waiting on his dryer or something to be fixed, and he and I was just talking out front a few minutes. And he said to me, he's a born-again Christian. I've seen him before. He said, what is your goal for 2018, preacher? That's a good question, isn't it? I mean, I have lots of goals. And by the way, it's up to you, but I've heard this thing about, well, I don't make no resolution. Then that means you won't do anything to preach. Good preaching, Brother Ed. If you don't make a plan, you won't stick to it. That was good preaching, what you just did. You don't make plans or shoot goals, you won't reach them. I can tell you. So I've got some things this year that I've asked the Lord to help me do concerning my physical weight, and my spiritual walk, and other things. But what should be our biggest goal for 2018? I think verse 10 has the answer. Look in verse 10 of Philippians 3. That I may know him. You say, now preacher, that word know is the key in this sentence. It is totally. Let me show you what I mean. I could say to you, I know who Donald Trump is. I do. I do. But I don't know Donald Trump in a personal manner. I could say to you, I know somebody else. And I know who they are. And I may know what they look like. I may know what they sound like. I may know what they do. But that don't mean I really know. If you look the word know up in the Bible, it's used a couple of different ways. In the Old Testament, the Bible said Adam knew Eve. And that produced a child. So we know what that knowing was. Another time in the Bible, other times, it talks about having an intimate knowledge of someone. Otherwise, if you've been married very long, how many of y'all been married over 10 years? You know that person a little bit at least. Don't you? Matter of fact, hey, confession's good for the soul. You know exactly how to push their buttons, don't you? Come on, you're all smiling. You know the hot little tongues. Oh, you know. I'll tell one of Brenda's if she's not here. On me. If she knows, I hate to hear this. Because I asked this 676,429 times. Brenda, do you know where? And if she says nothing, I'm okay. Or if she says no, I don't. But sometimes she'll say this little statement. I don't know. I didn't wear it. I don't know. It ain't mine. It's probably where you put it. Why do you think I'm asking? Because I don't know where I put it. I don't know where I left it. I mean, we all laughing, but, or you know, I know some things on her. She hates this one. She hates this one. Hey, Brenda, I just did this one. I did it. I thought I did, but I did. And I said, Brenda, she said, yeah. I said, so-and-so's coming over this evening. It was 4 o'clock. She said, who? And I said, yeah, I told him to come on over. And she said, why didn't you tell me? She can't stand that. See, I'm one that likes to fly by the seat of the pants. Does that shock you?
No.
Hey, I mean, hey, listen. I mean, you know, hey. I mean, I'm one of them retardos, son. I was thinking the other day, one of my grand Dylan says, Papa, we ain't been to Six Flags in a while. They won't nobody ride nothing with me except you. I said, well, let's go, son. He said, does your heart doctor say it's okay? I said, what he don't know won't hurt him. Amen? I mean, I like to go 240 feet and just boom! Last time I did it with my nephew. Josh was here a while ago. Josh will testify to that. We rode that Goliath the first time, and I had my false teeth in, and I had my glasses here. And my false teeth came out, my glasses came out, and I'm hanging on to both of them, still shouting. Let me ask you a question. If you live with somebody, listen, if you've lived with somebody very long, do you get to know them? Yes. Well, see, I believe when the Apostle Paul says that I may know him, I don't think he's talking about saying, I know his name. I don't think he's talking about, I know who he is. I don't think he's talking about, I know some things he's done. I believe that the Apostle Paul said, I want to get intimately close. I want to know him. I want to think like him. I want to walk like him. I want to react like him.
That's right. That's right.
I want to live like him. I want to see things from his eyes. I want to treat people how he would treat people. I want to respond how he would respond. I want to walk how he would walk.
That's right.
Amen. That I may know him. I may not preach on nothing else today. That's good right there. How do you get to know him? Well, I can just throw 3 things at you real quick. To get to know somebody, number 1, you have to spend time with them.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
Is that right? You have to spend time with them to get to really know them. I'm afraid, you know, confession is good for the soul. They say, sometimes it gets you in trouble. But you know, Jesus, if you look in the Gospels and you follow his life, is everybody paying attention? I think some of y'all off somewhere else now, but is everybody listening to me? You know why you react the way you react sometimes, and you snap somebody's head off, or you're hateful back to somebody, or you don't handle things? You know why you do that? Because you're not knowing him.
That's right.
Show me in the Bible. Show me from the 4 Gospels. Show me Jesus jumping on somebody unnecessarily. Show me him responding and reacting mean and negative and cruel to someone. Can you show me a place? The only time Jesus was negative. The only time Jesus was hard or harsh was to religious people, the Pharisees. When they brought the harlot to him, he never looked down at her. He never criticized her. He never demeaned her. Never. When Zacchaeus came to him, he never did. When all the others came to him, he never did. He loved them. He responded right. He reacted right. He cared for them. He made them feel better about themselves when he was through with them. Someone the other day, I was sitting around in a kind of a joking, lackadaisical type thing, just talking, having a good time. And somebody they didn't mean nothing real bad, but I don't believe they did. But they said something very negative. Folks, I wish you'd work this year at trying not to say anything negative. When you say something negative, it affects everybody. But you didn't see Christ do that. You didn't see the father in the prodigal son story. When the prodigal son got ready to come back, and that's why I still believe he's the hero, and no way the older brother is. No way the younger brother is. No way either one of them are. The father is the hero. The father is about the prodigal father. Really, we should call it the story of the prodigal father. But when the prodigal son came back to him, was he mean to him? Was he critical to him? Did he say something like, well, bless God, look who the dogs have drug up? No. Bible says he looked down the lane and saw him coming. And he ran and kissed him and hugged him. That's what he did. That son didn't even make it all the way back. The father met him. And the father took him and said, now listen, you're going to live in the back corner of the house. You're a second-rate citizen. No. He said, get the ring, get the fatty calf, get the robe. My sons came home.
Yes.
Yeah. He was lost. And now he's here. Hallelujah. It's kind of like when Jesus talked about the shepherd. 99. He would leave the 99 to go get the one. Is that what it says? Is that what it says?
Yeah.
He would leave the 99 because he was worried about that one. And I read the book by a guy named W. Philip Keller. If you ever want to read a phenomenal book about the shepherd, he has two really good books. One of them says a shepherd looks at the 23rd Psalm, and one of them is actually lessons from a sheepdog, written by W. Philip Keller. He was an Australian shepherd 32 years. And he said, as a shepherd, I have left the entire flock momentarily for one over there, because I didn't want to lose any of them. Nobody's dispensable. But you know what they did. You know what you and I have done in our hearts and our minds, just as bad as they have.
Yeah.
Do you realize that? See, some of y'all got a problem with that. But we have. Our bitterness, our negativity, things we've said to people. Come on now. But I think if we know Christ, I think if in 2018 we just say, I'm going to try my best, Lord, to get closer to you than I've ever got before. And I want to get to know you like I've never known you before. And I want to start responding and reacting. Now, I'm not using this to brag on me, but I'm going to show you how it works. It's a biblical principle. I won't call a name or a situation, but I'll just say this. I went somewhere the other day. It was a business transaction. And in the business transaction, the other party handled everything terrible. I mean, honestly, it was like They were wrong. They were mad. They were mad for no reason. And they handled it terribly. I handled it the first time semi-good. Semi-good. But I knew I had to go back a second time. And so my second time back, I prayed and I said, Lord, I'm probably going to walk into a venomous situation, because when I left, it was venomous. And that's why I left, because I would act like JT if I would have stayed. So I said to the Lord, I really did, Brandon, I said, no, I did. I said, now, Lord, help me to swallow my pride. I was done wrong. I really was. I was treated wrong and done wrong. But help me to handle it right. I went over there. Situation took place. The party involved I had dealt with before was sitting over about 20 feet away at their desk. And I handled my business. And I signed the stuff. And I said, y'all have a good New Year's. And the person said, Mr. Strickland. And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, can I talk to you for a moment? I said, sure. I walked over and she said, I apologize. She said, I was totally wrong the other day. You came back and you've handled this totally right. You even, and I did. I even did something I didn't have to do. Now, I said that to say this. What if we spent this year taking that approach? What if we spent this year, before we say that sarcastic negative statement that nobody gains from, just shutting up sometimes? Just saying, I don't need to act that way. You know how you'll do that? When you know Christ. When Christ is influencing your life, and when you're thinking how He thinks, and when you look at people the way He looks at people, because He loves people. He forgives people. He's patient with people. How many of y'all are glad God is patient with you? How many of y'all are glad He's more patient than you and I are? How many of y'all believe God will have a right many times to zap you? Leave a grease spot. Big grease spot in my case. See that I may know Him. Here's what I believe, and I'll finish next week. Don't miss this. Here's what I believe, Brother Bobby. I believe if we acted more like Jesus acts, more people would be in this church. And more people would be in our classes, and more people would be our friends. And more, if we acted like Christ acted, as much as we can. We're not perfect. You're going to mess up. We're human beings. Our flesh gets in the way. Our selfish things get in the way. I went through that last weekend some. Your flesh gets up and your selfish just gets in the way. And I wonder if we would just get to know Him. And before we do something, just say this. Would Jesus say this? Well, that gets us all, don't it? You know what I want to do in that situation? You don't understand how bad it was. They cheated me out of money. They literally did. I did not have to do what I went back and did. You know what I wanted to do? Even when I did right, I wanted to say something. But I didn't. And when I got back in my truck and I drove off, the Lord is my witness, my phone rang, and it was the other lady, the owner. And she said, I owe you an apology too. Now, I told you that for this reason. I wonder if we handle things that way. If we handle things that way. And if we got to know Christ, and we got to know His heart, and we got to look through our eyes at people through His eyes, what would Jesus say? What would Jesus do here? What is the proper response here? You know, they're going through a hard time, and maybe I can help them if I do this or this. What if we did that? Don't condemn people. Don't be negative to people. Don't be mean to people. That's never the answer. That pushes people farther away. Love, understanding, compassion, patience, selflessness, like Christ. So Paul said that I may know him. Why don't we just quit there today and think about that? We've got one more day today before a new year starts tomorrow. Why don't we kind of start the new year if we can, trying to know him and act like him and respond like him and see people like he does. You see people like he does, you'll see them as all sinners, but you'll see them with all souls. And you'll see they need love and understanding and patience is what they need. That's what awaits them. Let's stand. Every head bowed, every eye closed. No one was in